Why JavaScript is probably the most beneficial programming language that you can learn. Hey friends, my name is Vitaly. I'm a lead software engineer in Los Angeles, California, and today we're gonna discuss with you JavaScript. This programming language is quickly becoming the absolute market leader, so in case if you're in doubt whether you should learn it or not, I'm gonna give you some strong arguments to convince you to learn this language in this video. So in case if you're in this kind of situation, make sure to watch this video till the end. And by the way guys, if you want to see more programming content from me like this in your recommendations, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below and ring the bell. So the first key point is the simplicity of the programming language. Many people say that JavaScript is quite confusing because of its type conversion mechanism or work with the closure, but in comparison with other like big enterprise giants like C# or Java, it's much easier. Because in most of the programming languages, again like Java and C#, you would have to provide some special environment, some special conditions like Java Virtual Machine for Java or CLR for C# to actually write, build and execute the program on your machine. But on the other hand, if you're watching this video in your browser, you're probably already using JavaScript and you can just open up the console like F12 in the Google Chrome and you can already start working with JavaScript and you can write your first program in like 10 seconds. So it makes JavaScript a lot simpler to use and a lot simpler to learn. JavaScript is also quite simple because you don't have to worry about the implementation details or data structures that you would use to solve your programming challenge. And you can say that in most of the languages we don't have to deal with the implementation details, like in Java, in C# or in Python, and you would be partially correct because in Java, for example, if we want to use the hash table that we usually call the map in Java, you would still have to worry what kind of implementation you should pick because in Java there are different types of the hash tables that can serve the different use cases for you. But in terms of JavaScript, we just use the curly braces syntax with the key value pair and we just immediately started using the hash table and use all the benefits of this beautiful data structure instead of worrying about the implementation details. And the simplicity of JavaScript comes from the huge amount of libraries, frameworks, and utilities that you can easily include to your project, and that would solve all your programming challenges. And there is even a joke in JavaScript community that you can pick any random word, put .js, Google it, and there is a really high chance that there's going to be a library, a framework or utility based on JavaScript with such name. So the second point is the market share. According to Stack Overflow developer survey, JavaScript is the most popular languages at this point, and it has a really huge market share among all the other programming languages. And not only it's powerful and fast itself, the programming language, but it's probably the only one language that can allow you to build the application end-to-end using only JavaScript. That tremendously increases the development speed, which can really benefit for the companies, because companies really compete hard to deliver the features to the end users as soon as possible, and it's really beneficial for companies to choose the JavaScript based stack because not only it gives us a really good development speed, but we can also share the people resources among the team because you can build the whole application using the JavaScript stack. And this kind of situation forces the companies to choose JavaScript more often than the other stack because they can benefit from it. And for us, as for developers, it would mean that we're gonna expect always the increasing number of the jobs that would require the JavaScript knowledge. And it would also mean for us that it would be easier for us to find the good and interesting and high-paying job. And the third point is build anything using JavaScript. So there is no other language that can give you that power as JavaScript. It's probably the only one language on the market that you can use for pretty much anything. You can build a mobile application, you can build a front-end, back-end, and pretty much anything that you can imagine you can build using JavaScript. So there are a lot of production-ready products, great products on the market that were built entirely on the JavaScript-based stack. For example, the typical web application can leverage the React.js, Vue.js, or Angular for building the single page application on the front end. They can leverage also the Node.js for building the backend application. They can also choose the MongoDB as a database to store the actual data, and they can pick the React Native to build the cross-platform mobile application that can be compiled to the native application for the iOS and Android using the language that you already know, which is JavaScript. And not only we can use JavaScript to build the application end-to-end, the situation is a little bit different from the other programming languages, because there are some solutions, for example, for Java, where you can write the code using Java and then compile it to the front-end application. But it's a little bit different because JavaScript is probably the absolute market leader for creation the powerful user interfaces, the single-page applications. We can use the React.js or Vue.js or AngularJS to build a really powerful front-end application and deliver really good user experience. We can also choose Node.js, which is a really popular solution for the backend application because of its performance, ease to use, and also the learning curve. MongoDB is also great options for the database because it's really high scalable, it's NoSQL storage. We can save the JavaScript object directly to MongoDB, and also MongoDB has the query language that is based on JavaScript syntax. And the people with JavaScript background would find it really easy to use because of its query language that is based on JavaScript. And to build a cross-platform mobile application, we can use the React Native, which is nowadays a really popular solution for building the cross-platform application and then compile it to the native applications to the iOS and Android. And it's all happening by using the language that you already know and love. And that were only most typical cases where we can use JavaScript for the web applications. But we can also talk a little bit about the other cases like building VR games, building VR application, building IoT applications, or browser games, or graphics, and everything you can build using JavaScript. So whether you are planning to build your own company, your own startup, or you're planning to learn JavaScript and become a software engineer, it would be a really good choice because most likely it would cover all your needs. By the way, guys, if you think that any other language can compete in this kind of use cases with JavaScript, let me know in the comments down below. I would really like to hear your opinion about this. And so the last point about JavaScript is flexibility. So I told you before that JavaScript can pretty much cover work on each of the layers that we can technically imagine, like building front-end, back-end, database, game, and so on and so forth. But there should be a particular reason behind that why it's only available for JavaScript. So first of all, JavaScript is the scripting languages, and scripting languages usually take much less preparation to use it in comparison with the languages like Java or C# that need the special environment to build, execute, and run the program. And JavaScript is also a highly customizable language, and you can extend the language with your own keywords or file structure, or you can even create your own file format that can be eventually transpiled or compiled to JavaScript. For example, let's consider React.js. Facebook came up with their own file structure and file format, which is called JS6. And JS6 is a file format that allows us to mix up HTML, CSS, and JavaScript within one file. And it is beautifully allow us to build the components that would match with the tree structure of our elements in the browser, and that would eventually be compiled to or transpiled to the JavaScript and can be easily executed on any place where we would regularly execute JavaScript. There is even a separately developed language by Microsoft which is called TypeScript that is based on JavaScript and extends the language with the different syntax constructions, and also it adds the type support to JavaScript, but eventually it will be compiled to JavaScript and we can run it anywhere where we would regularly run JavaScript. And technically by writing the Webpack plugin or loader, we can come up with our own file structure, extend the language with our own keywords and something like that. But eventually, by writing the Webpack plugin or loader, we can tell the Webpack how exactly transpile our own file format to be converted to JavaScript, and we can come up with our own like even programming language that can be eventually transpiled to JavaScript and will be executed everywhere where we would run JavaScript. And overall, JavaScript is a powerful, fast, and multi-purpose programming language that gives us a good developer experience and outstanding development speed. And in my personal opinion, it makes it the best language to learn overall. So if you like the video, guys, make sure to hit that thumb up icon. It would support my channel and it would give the YouTube algorithms the idea that this video is good and it would promote it much better. So it's a simple action for you, but good result for me, and I'll see you in the next videos. See you guys!